Welcome to our newest Nurse Fern company Q&A with Fourier Health. I have Chrissy, the VP of Clinical Operations, and Kristen, the Clinical Operations Manager here. Welcome. I'm so excited to have both of you here. I'm going to go ahead and get started with Chrissy. Do you mind telling us a little bit about Fourier, like how long it's been around? Because it's pretty new to the remote nurses in our community.
Thanks for having us. Really also excited to be here. We both are big fans of Nurse Fern and have been invested in your path for quite a while as well. Fourier was founded in 2023 by our CEO, Chris Lee, and our CTO and co-founder, James Lloyd. And basically what we are is we are a company that is scaling clinical intelligence. And we do that by helping any type of healthcare organization manage their kind of disparate, siloed, disjointed medical records that come in, anywhere from sitting on their fax server all the way through providing clinical summaries for their providers and clinicians before they see a patient. And we're built on two kind of foundational principles. Number one, we are an entirely end-to-end product that sits within clinical workflows with customizable outputs. And two, we guarantee clinical accuracy with our AI through our clinician-in-the-loop architecture, which we will get into a whole bunch in a minute. Our goal is simple. We want to surface the right information at the right time for the right clinicians so they can focus on patients and not be staring at a computer and digging through records to get up to speed last minute.
And do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself and your role?
First and foremost, I'm an oncology nurse, and that is very much kind of what I root everything in and what I do in my career in healthcare. Here I am VP of Clinical Operations, and so I oversee all things clinical operations. And so that includes our clinician in the loop architecture and network, our quality infrastructure, and making sure really that all of our products going out the door are accurate and clinically meaningful to our end users. And I'll let Kristen introduce herself.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm also a Nurse Fern fan, just so you know. Few years been following you, so I'm very happy to be here. My name is Kristen. I am the clinical operations manager. I am also a nurse. I am an oncology and women's health nurse specialty. At my job here, I basically manage the day-to-day movement of cases and the network itself with communication, following the cases, helping with any questions that summarizers may have. I was actually a contractor first with Fourier, and then just turned into full-time in this position this past year.
Well, that's so cool to hear. It's always fun. I know we're going to talk about this later, but chatting about the opportunities as a contract nurse to come on board and move up, because not all companies have that option.
Yeah, it's one of the things we really love about what we can do. But like you said, we'll get into that more.
Chrissy, can you tell me a little bit about what makes Fourier Health different from other AI health tech companies?
There's a few things. First, we're not just an AI company. Our technology is built on the clinician network that we have. And a lot of what we do is led by nurses. I'm a nurse, Kristen's a nurse, our quality manager, Ashley, is a nurse. Our head of clinical solutions is a nurse, Gabby. What that means is that the decisions that are being made about how our network is treated, how they're supported, how quality is measured, how our product is measured for end users, it's all driven with a heavy influence by nurses, which is really cool and not all that common in health tech, which is probably not surprising to a lot of the nurses listening to this. And then, beyond that, I think we have really built something that genuinely brings what most of us were drawn to in healthcare in the first place, which is kind of removing all the noise and letting the clinician and patient work together and solve problems. And so I think that mission really resonates with our network, and it shows in the culture we've built. I think like one of the most validating pieces that we've kind of pulled from this is that when we're interviewing nurses and explain what we do, their response is, "Oh, I wish I had that in my clinic." So like, what better market validation than getting like your own network, wanting to have a piece of the pie. That's been great to kind of see as well. And we really try to make this feel more than just a gig for our network. So we offer flexible schedules. We have a community channel where nurses can connect and ask questions and feel really engaged in what we're doing and a part of the build. And I think the final thing, particularly for nurses, is that, in this kind of age of AI and how transformative it is in so many different ways, it's really interesting and exciting to be able to work with AI at the kind of cutting edge of it hitting workflows. And there's a lot of kind of vaporware companies out there that are saying they're doing a lot of this, but it's just not really hitting the mark like we are. So we're really building something special. And it's particularly exciting to bring nurses into this and let them kind of be part of the build, and rather than just kind of like receive the product as they often do in the working environment of health systems.
Yeah, it's really nice to hear that you're building a community with your contractors, but also involving nurses in all the aspects of the AI build, because so often we are just handed something later. We're like, we wanted
Totally.
to be part of this. Why couldn't we be
Yep.
part of the build on this?
Yeah, it could have been
Kristen,
so much
oh,
better. Sorry. Yeah.
no, you're okay.
Yeah.
Kristen, do you have anything you want to add about including nurses in this process?
I think to your point, nurses are always asking, when are we getting involved in this decision-making process? So we are trained at putting pieces together, putting the puzzle together for our providers and building that patient story, which is what we're doing, with our summaries here. So, we're trained to look for those specific clinical details. We're trained to connect the dots across the chart and find the information that we actually need in order to take care of our patients. So the needle in the haystack, if you will. So that's what makes our summaries valuable. And it's just not pulling that data, but it's actually making a story out of it, which is something that we as nurses are trained to do from the beginning.
I like the storytelling aspect because, yeah, we truly see like the whole big picture with the clinical, not just the data point. Chrissy, what do nurses primarily do? So we talked about big picture, but what is their role?
They do a couple different things. We have nurses building our data sets that we validate our model off of. They do actual abstracting in some scenarios, and then we have a group that does actual quality checks. So they're validating that our AI model is correct. They're identifying trends of what needs to be improved. So they're really kind of bouncing around all the different aspects of what it means to build AI. I think what's really interesting is there's been a lot of concern about nurses kind of being used to train models and then like tossed aside when it hits the point when it gets to where it needs to be. Fourier is actually, we are built on this clinician-in-the-loop architecture. And so we believe that the safe, high quality AI that is put into the healthcare system really needs a clinician at the table always. Medicine is changing. We all know this. Guidelines, treatments, best practices, new evidence, all of those things are constantly changing and moving faster than we can keep up with. And so to have nurses at the table kind of helping keep that model current and honest and trustworthy is something that is just not replaceable. So as long as medicine's changing, we will have clinicians in the loop supporting our model and making sure that it's soundproof and is maintaining at the highest standard that it should be.
I'm really glad you brought that up because that is a huge concern that I see, especially in social media comments about like, I'm not going to train something that's just going to replace me. Then what?
It should be an augment, right? Like it should be supporting nurses' work so they can work at the top of their license. It shouldn't be replacing it. The backbone of what we do is built off of clinical knowledge. And so you can't build something and then remove the core of what it is, and expect it to be maintained.
And be successful. I'm sure plenty will
Exactly.
give it a go at removing the core of what makes it, but
Yeah.
then what's next?
Exactly. Yep.
Do you see the conversation and excitement around AI growing or simply just becoming a background that's expected to be a part of things?
Honestly, I think the answer is both. I think even just over the past year, we're seeing clinicians become more comfortable with AI. They're more engaged, more receptive. They're asking the right questions about how AI can influence their day-to-day work. And so I think the comfort is growing in that way. And at the same time, I think that AI is just expanding so rapidly and the capabilities are just kind of like this endless question mark. And so I think there's still a lot of genuine excitement about it. I think as these solutions continue to become more available to the front lines, what doesn't change and what kind of can't change, like I just said, is this standard for clinical accuracy. And so I think, in healthcare, as we all know, there can be massive ripple effects on patient outcomes if even a small piece of information is missing or documented incorrectly. And so I do see that as really kind of a barrier to adoption. AI generated clinical summaries and decision support are actually trailing behind healthcare operational AI being adopted. In a recent study, actually, by Doximity, they released that over 70% of providers said the top barrier to AI adoption is worry about accuracy and reliability. And about 70% of providers said their top excitement point is to lessen the administrative workload. So we really kind of address both, and it really kind of solves that kind of like back and forth on we're really excited about AI, but we're really nervous about it. And we kind of sit in the middle and can kind of address both pieces there.
I see that a lot too, where we're being given these products and then told to trust it. And as nurses, we're like, no, we have to double check and verify everything. And I keep hearing
Yeah.
that over and over. And I don't even know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. One of the things that we do that's really that really kind of anchors trust as well is our clinical summaries have inline citations. So we produce these AI generated summaries. We have a clinician in the loop validate it, but then you can go in and click on the actual information so we can see where it lives in the records. I think we've really kind of cracked the code on identifying how to build in that trust piece and have kind of all of these safeguards so you know as a clinician, like, there's different layers to this that I can trust and anchor on and self-verify when I need to.
you mentioned a moment ago that you really liked some of the questions that clinicians were coming up with. And I know I'm putting you on the spot right now, but what are some things that you've heard nurses ask that you're like, that's what we should be asking?
From a nursing perspective, there is a lot of question about some of the soft information that lives in medical records, like care navigation, pulling out like the picture. You mentioned earlier that like nurses see the whole picture of what's going on. There is all of this subjective information that lives in records that you can catch care gaps. You can catch like, oh, this person actually doesn't have transportation to get to appointments. And so there's this whole layer of it where there's like the concrete clinical content, but then there's this whole underbelly of what nurses do and like bringing the patient, saving the patient from themselves in some ways, or like putting the things in place that you can see a mile away, but it's not concretely documented. And so it's very easy to miss. So I think care navigation is a big piece for nurses that they're getting more and more interested in. And like, how can AI help us see the patient better and quicker? And especially like if you think of phone triage, when you have like seconds to look through the records and figure out what's going on, like how can that augment what they're already doing?
Such a good
Yeah.
point. I heard somebody mention that it catches all of the unseen labor that we do. Okay, I'm going to switch gears here and talk a little bit more about the nitty gritty with employment. Are you ready for that? Okay, so I'm going to start with Kristen. How many nurses do you employ?
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this conversation. If you're wondering right now, like how many nurses this company employs, what their application and hiring process looks like, and what the future of hiring looks like, make sure that you are part of either the YouTube membership paid subscribers or you're part of the Nurse Fern membership. And you'll be able to access the rest of this interview in our full director's ad-free cut.